Hi guys, it's Marianne with Happy Paper People. Happy Paper People on Facebook is an awesome group. If you are not already a member, we invite you over. Also of Marianne's Craft Design on Etsy. You'll find some of my creations there as well as some other fun things to use in card making, journal making, scrapbooking, art, mixed media art. I like to provide for it all. Yeah, everything is crossover anyway, isn't it? Today I was just about to bind 3 signatures into a hidden binding, and got thinking that I should probably flip on the camera and record it because I get asked a lot about binding and how to bind books in. So this is the book, this is the journal cover that I'm doing this for. It's a Paris journal. Cover is not complete, but it's almost complete. It's, you know, a good chunk of the way. And so it's covered with this Paris fabric. That's kind of important as we get onto the binding. I've already put the eyelet up here with the dangle. So just going to be a very simple, elegant dangle for this one. And I've got book paper, bookends on the the inside of the cover so far. And I carried the lace around that was from the spine, and I've got a Tyvek spine there. And I want to say, let's see, what is this spine? I want to say this spine is like 2.5 inches. Yep, it's a 2.5 inch spine because it's a 3 signature journal. And I want to hide the binding. This is not one where I want the binding to show on the outside. So what I did was cut a piece of cardstock. Here's the other end of the cardstock that started with just, you know, plain old cardstock. I cut a piece of cardstock. It was a long piece like this. I cut it off for length. I first took a signature. Grab a signature here. I've already got them lined up and clipped together because not all the pages are the same size, and so it took some time to get them exactly where I want them. So I took the signature and I laid it folded up here, and could see that the signature would fit in nicely, and I would still have plenty of room there and there if I let it go below that eyelet. So I decided to do that. So I made the piece of chipboard about that long. Okay, just a hair longer than the signatures themselves, actually. I mean, it could be the same length, doesn't matter. All right, and then I covered the chipboard in the Paris fabric, like the outside of the cover is, with the Paris fabric. It's matching. When I put it there, there's going to be a lot of sloppy here, right? What I'm going to do then, the signatures will be on it, the binding will be here, and I'll adhere this to the spine so the binding will then be hidden. That's where it gets its name. But I don't want to see all this, so I will be putting some lace down both sides here. And this is an interesting piece of lace on the spine. It's really wide, and I liked it really wide, so I left it there. I did want both sides that had this nice little eyelash fringe, you know, coming out. But I didn't want it to wind as far around on the front as the back, and I'm okay with it going farther around the back. I like the look of that on the back of the book. It, you know, goes out into the book, and that's exactly what I wanted. So there's the spine, and on the front I just wanted a little bit, you know, the curves there. So it obviously then overlaps farther on the inside on the back cover. So I can decide whether I really want to just cut this off and take it up. I don't think so. I like it being overlapped there because I like being able then to put something on top of it and know that it just has more stability there. So let's put the cover to the side, but now you know what it is that we're binding for. And here is what we're going to bind to right now. And we've got 3 signatures. And in order of how I want them, this is 1. This is 2. Double checking them. And this is 3. Okay, that is correct. All right, so I'm going to put 1 up there, 2 in my hand, and 3. And then it's always a good idea to double check and make sure you've got it right side up. You can talk to a number of people that have bound a signature in and found out later, once they're done, they look at it and realize that it is upside down. And yes, I realize that this calendar page is upside down, which is okay, because I wanted this as my centerfold. That's a really, really cool picture, and that's off that calendar page. And they're already shifting. It's hard to do when they're not all the exact same size. So, all right, so this is our center signature, and I want to bind the center signature first. The first thing that I need to do is get the holes in it. I already put holes in this. I could have done this on camera. I probably should have. Didn't think about doing that. I actually did it on a live, so it is on camera if you want to watch one of our live streams from just the week prior to this date. You know, whenever you're watching this, you can see and look the week prior. I was just working on what I was working on during that live stream. It was just a chat and hang out. It was a Friday night hangout. That's what you want to look for, a Friday night hangout. And so that's when I cut the chipboard. I put the fabric on. I did cut it with pinking shears, trim it up with pinking shears around so that it wouldn't fray, but I did glue it all the way down. And then I came back and put the holes in, and it reminds me I needed to grab an awl. There are a number of different ways to put the holes in. There are a number of different tools that you can use. You could use something like this that has the sharp pointed end there. There's I've got 2 or 3 different kinds of sharp pointy tools there, but this is a standard awl. If you don't have one and you would like one for bookbinding, if you're in the United States, if you've got a Harbor Freight anywhere near you, they're about $2.99. Seriously, you can go to craft stores. I don't even know what they cost these days. You know, go to bookbinding supplies. You're likely going to pay between $10 and $15 for an awl. But if you just go to a tool store, you're going to get it. You know, any guy can find it there and tell you. Just ask him for an awl. It's AWL, awl. They can, you know, direct you right to the awls. $2.99. You could get them at an Ace Hardware, a Harbor Freight, as I said, a Lowe's, a Home Depot, any tool store, honestly. If your husband has a good toolbox, go out there. He might have one hidden in there. It's kind of, you know, one of the things that most guys have in a toolbox that, you know, at some point they need one. So, okay, so this is the center. This is the center signature. That's going, so I'm gonna bind that one in first. Then I can do one on its left and one on its right. But I'm a little frustrated because looking at the folds, and I'm seeing that things have shifted from when I put it in. And I'll bring it to the edge and see if I can't get things a little closer in line. Hard to do, and there are a couple things that are already put on pages, and that makes it like this one. It makes it kind of bulky, you know, a little more difficult to use or to work with just because it's bulky. But that had to be. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to look and see that all my folds are about as close to the same as I can get right there. And that's right where it would fold there. Okay, so if that's folded like that, that signature, and I want this to be right in that center. Something's squeaking here. Let me see if I can move this a little bit. Maybe it's rubbing against the one next to it. Okay, I'm not going to mark it with a pencil. I'm going to just poke it with the awl and see if I can just, maybe because the bulk is on the right side, or the left side, maybe I should turn it to the right. But I'm checking my top and bottom to see exactly where I want it. And I'm going to turn it around this way so that I can actually just get to the, right to the spine, the fold of that signature. Okay, and so that'll be right where I'll want it, right there. So I'm going to take this awl, there's my center hole right there, and I'm going to just poke a little hole right there. Really, it's only in the signature cover. Same thing over here. There's the hole. So I'm going to poke a hole in the signature cover. And down here. Yeah, good hole right there. So poke a hole in the signature cover. Okay. And then I need the hole to go all the way through, and that's what the awl is for, because you could have made that hole with a pencil. You could make a mark with a pencil, or, you know, poke it through with a pencil, or a pen, or whatever. You can use a crocodile, big bite. That will work. That will probably, a crocodile would get into the two outside ones, but it won't get into the center. But a crocodile big bite would get to all of them. You sure can use that. But since so many people don't have that, but just have an awl or something very sharp, I'm going to just use the awl today and shift it again. The more you move it, the more chance it has to shift. Yeah, see this. All right. Doesn't help that some of this is slick paper, like this center calendar page. That might be the only one that is slipping, but it is a slick piece of paper. So, not sure what is happening there. And here, let's see. So here it's gone the other direction. That's the hardest part of the whole thing, is just keeping it lined up to get the hole right where you need it, because once the hole is in, piece of cake putting it in. Trying to shift that right a little bit and not shift the cover. Still not enough. Let's see. Okay. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to put this straight down on its face, open to the middle. And here is the middle hole that I made, the tiny little hole. So I'm just going to take this awl, and I really should have stamp pad underneath it. A book will work too. Let's see. Let me just grab a book that we use for book pages. And step on a squeaky toy at the same time. This might not be the greatest book because it's got a lot of edge there. That's okay. All I want is something for the awl to go into instead of going into my glass mat. Goodness, this glossy one just keeps shifting. actually do want to feel it just to see if I can tell that it's coming through the right spot over here. Yeah. Okay. Then all you have to do is push and twist. I mean, there's no threads on the end like a drill, but when you twist it, it does just kind of drill into it. See, it went right into that book, so it's wise to have a book there. Okay, and here is, I'm going to come back and go from the inside. Just make sure that our hole is good there. Okay. I hate that this keeps shifting. If these are all together and they're let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna try that. All right, so I'm gonna turn it back over. I'm gonna go down here, and where's the little hole? There it is right there. See if we can tell. Okay. Perfect. Okay. It doesn't need to be a super big hole. And you can make it bigger as you're working with it if you need it to. Better too small than too big, in my opinion. That's just my thought, because I can always enlarge it at any time, but once you've made a big old gaping hole, you can't fill it in. You can't make it smaller. Okay, now the third one was up here. There it is. If I ran my awl along and it caught on the little hole that I had stabbed, just a tiny little hole in the spine of, or in the fold of that signature cover. So I don't, the reason I come to the other side, oops, why it should be meeting exactly. The reason I come to the other side is because if this is pointed, so if I keep pushing from the back until the front pages get large enough hole, then the back is going to be clear up to here and going to be just a really big gaping hole, and I really don't want that. Don't need that. So I'll come around here, and this center paper is really pretty fragile. Okay, be careful with that. It is really pretty fragile. All right, we'll move our book aside. And now this is the center signature that we're going to bind in. So I'm going to use this floss. I'm pretty sure it's an embroidery floss. It's kind of it's a fairly heavy, you know, not like all the embroidery floss I've had in the past, but it came packaged like embroidery floss. So probably just some kind of heavy duty embroidery floss. I'm going to use this because I like the color. I had this waxed thread that I was going to use that I really like as well, but it's whiter, and this one's more of a cream, like a vintage lace color. So rather than having to color this with vintage photo, which I have done, I'm just going to use this one that is already the color that I want it to be. So the end is already threaded there. This is not too big of a needle. It'll work fine. As long as it's got a big enough eye that you can thread in whatever you're binding with, then the needle is big enough. That'll work fine. But I would even use one, ooh, I have to be careful with that. That rose on the other side there. I even use one this big. I use this one frequently. See, it's even bigger than that one. And the eye is bigger and easier to thread something in, but they're not actual book binding needles, and they do have those. So, but I find that these great big needles work just fine for me. All right, so how much of this do I need? Because it's a small skein, if you will, I could just leave it here. I could bind as I go, and then when I get to the end, cut it off. But maybe you have a great big thing like this and you kind of want to, you need to measure, you know, and cut off how much you need. How do you determine how much you need? Well, you take it and go about 3 times the length. Now notice I'm not measuring exactly 1. I'm just going, you know, more even, just a big 1, 2, 3 times the length, and then some. I'd just give it a little more, maybe 6 inches. Okay, I don't like to waste, but if I have some to cut off at the end, I throw it into my little scrap bin that I collect all the scraps of thread and yarn and just threads that I cut off of sewing and things. And when I get enough in there, then I put them all together and I make some fabric out of them. So that's a whole nother tutorial. So I don't worry about, you know, if I've got an inch or 2 on the end, because it'll add to that. And if I don't ever add to it, then I can't ever make my own fabric, right? Okay, so here's how we bind. We're going to go down the center. Now we're going down the center of the book, but we're also going to take it through the spine that we want it to be bound to. Now let's make sure that this is right side up. Okay, the words are going that way. So yeah, that is correct. That's the top, that's the top. Okay. So easy to do that upside down when you just grab it. So, okay, so I went down the middle and down the middle of the spine, the false spine. It's a false spine that's going to hide the binding, therefore called hidden binding. Okay, so I bring it through. I'm going to leave plenty hanging out here. So I went down the middle, and now I'm going to go up the bottom. Now this is, it doesn't matter whether you go up the bottom or up the top, as long as you come up one of the other two. So first I'm going through the spine, and then I'm going to come up through the hole in the actual signature. Come on. Separate these so we can get that one out. We'll just pull that down a little farther. It's not really going to pull out. So, okay. So we went down the center. We came up the bottom. We're going to go down the center again. And this is down the center. Same hole, but try not to split the thread. Try to go next to the thread, whatever you're using to bind, not through it. So I really want to go next to it. And I'm moving this around so much that it's getting out of alignment. There it is. Okay. So next to the thread and through this spine, which really, you just think of it as part of this. So if it goes through the fold, it goes through the spine. Okay. So let's pull that one down. Just keep our tail hanging out there. Okay, so we went down the center, up the bottom, down the center, and up the top. So we'll go to that top hole there, and we'll get the top hole. There it is, right through. Okay, so we went down the center, up the bottom, down the center, up the top. And here we are. But now I want to turn this over and make sure that it's pulled through all the way and is taut. See, that's pretty loose. Yep, that's correct. For a moment, I thought I should have been binding to this side, but no. This side is going to be adhered to the journal, and that's why I left that like that, so it'll hold glue well the side that is going to be visible is the pretty side, and that's what we want. Okay, so I want to turn this over and just make sure I've got a hold of both ends here. I went down the bottom, or down the center and up the bottom one. Then we went down the center and up the top one. And I want to make sure that I pulled those taut, but not too tight. Okay, you don't want to pull it too tight, it'll start ripping through pages. All right, so now I'm going to bring this, as I came up the top, I want to hang on to this tail because they're going to end up being tied together. Bring this one underneath the one that's there. Okay. And so now it's got something to hook onto. Make sure that they're taut, but not too tight. Don't want to be pulling it. And I'm really nervous about this page right here. Concerned that that's going to be just tearing through. Might have to think of something to do with that. Okay, so now I've got these both here, and now I'm just going to tie them in a knot. Good old square knot is always just the best on that. Just a right over left and a left over right. There you go. Okay, and now I've got two long tails. I'm going to cut this one off because it's really long, but I'm going to leave them both long until I decide exactly what I'm going to do with them, because I will typically tie a charm on the inside here, or take a couple of die cuts and put them on the end. So depending what I do with it, I might need more string here. So I'll leave that for now until I just make that decision. So I'm gonna take this off and close this up, protect that page there, and that is our center signature bound in the center hole, and we have room for one on the left and the right. Okay, so let's do it again. This time we'll go a little bit quicker. I'm gonna put that off to the side, and here's my, all right. Threading, I might grab that other needle because threading this one wasn't super easy. This was almost too big to go through it. It just kept wanting to split. Let's see. It can be such a small thing like this and laid out so nicely, and it still will find a way to want to knot up, won't it? Is that Murphy's Law? Must be. Okay. I'm really excited to get this Paris journal finished and do a flip through. Got a lot of stuff to put in it, so just needed to get a couple things done that had to be done before binding, and now get these bound, and then I can start decorating and embellishing it. All right, there's an end, so we'll take that one. Whoop, there's another end. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is just cut this, get a clean cut, and at an angle to see if I can give it a little help going through. If it doesn't go through easily, then I'll just grab the larger needle. Of course, see that split? I could show you what to do when it splits, or how to thread that needle when it splits, because that might be the only needle you have. Come on. There's one. Okay, it split. There's two strands there that are twisted together to make this. One got through the hole and the other one didn't. Okay, so I'm going to grab the other one over here. I'm going to keep hold of this one with the needle so I don't lose it. This one is all frayed now, so I'm just going to cut the end clean, and that didn't work. Clean and at a slight angle. All right. And yes, it's my thread, so I put it in my mouth. Really, what I do is just run that between my teeth because it flattens it out. And when it's flat, it goes through there much easier. Okay, so now I have both through. I'm going to pull the second one until they meet, then get it up here past where it's untwisted. Clip that off, put all of that over into my future fabric bin, and there we go. All right, so this is signature 1. They're all the same size, so the amount I'm going to need is going to be the same. So there's 1, 2, 3, and some. Now we had plenty left over last time, so I don't need to be quite as generous with the binding thread. All right, so I'm going to put the first signature in. So there's an old adage when building or working with tools, and it's measure twice, cut once, because you measure and cut and then you're off a little bit and you go, oh, and now you've destroyed or ruined your piece of wood. So I will say look twice and then bind only once. Always double check and make sure that you've got the one you want, because the first one I picked up was actually the 3rd signature, even though I purposefully laid them out 1, 2, 3. So this is the one I want, is the 1st signature. This is an elegant Paris with a little bit of whimsy. So I am going to move these over to the side just a bit so I can see. The easiest way to tell if they're all lined up is to look at the folds. All right, so I know this is off camera a bit, but there's no way for me to see it and have it be under the camera. So, all right. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this one up next to the one that's already there so that they're, when they're bound, they'll be sitting at the same place. And there's my center hole. Let's see, let me do this. Are they still good? Yeah. Okay, there's my center hole. So just gonna make a little hole in there. And where's my center? There's my center hole, or not center, there's my bottom hole. I should have turned this the other direction so that I could see, so I could be in alignment with it instead of looking. Did that go through? There we go. Okay. Now let's turn it over and get those holes all the way through. All right, where's our center hole? Right there. I think so. Okay, we'll get our book back. Okay, I see that coming through. So I'm going to stop and flip it over. Do it back the other direction so it doesn't get too fat. Okay, that should be good enough. All right, where's our top hole? There it is, right there. That one was dead on. It's nice when that happens. Doesn't always happen. Did I just smack the camera? If I did, I'm sorry. All right. Oh, this one might be a little harder to see. Where is that it right there? I think that might be. but let's see, this is the bottom. Oh, see, I did make a mistake. This is the top and this is the bottom. I can't turn it around that way. That's the bottom. I need to turn it around this way, because what if the holes aren't the exact same distance apart? Okay, so that one is right there. That one is not lined up at all. See how easily it happens. All right, we're gonna have to do a new center hole right there. Well, I'm glad I didn't make it too big. We can deal with it. Just make sure it's not too visible from any. Put something over it in the center here. You probably can't even see it. If you didn't know it was there, you probably couldn't see it. But you can always put a sticker that matches, you know, something that matches these flowers, these roses here. Okay. So there's where it really should be. And that one is okay. And this one, now I can't even see it again, because you can see that I did not score this before I folded it, and I really should have, because by not scoring it, it just cracked, and so you can see the white underneath it, which is okay because it's going to be hidden in here, but typically I would want to score it anyway, just because. I hope this is still lined up. All right, so that's how mistakes happen. And that's how you correct them. Well, look at that. I'm clear off on them. It must have shifted. Yep, it sure did. Let me see if I can get this lined back up here. And there we go. It is kind of easier to do it with the crocodile, the big bite, because you can just put it in here, make sure they're all lined up together, and one punch, and you're through all of them. Hi, Lucy. Can you lay down, please? Can you lay down, please? Okay, so now we've got our thread, get everything out of the way. We're going to go down the middle. Remember which one is the right hole? I believe it's the top one. I believe the top one was the second one I did, which is the correct one. There we go. Down the top, excuse me, down the center and all the way through. Let's get this out of the way. Down the center, all the way through the faux spine, the false spine there. It will look like the spine of the book, but it's like a false floor. Okay, so down the center. I'm gonna leave enough hanging out here that we can deal with later. And we're going to go up the bottom. That went right through. That's nice. Okay. Then we're going to go down the center again. Remember, we want to try not to split the thread that's there, but to go next to the thread that's there. Okay, so we just went down the center. That's our tail. Okay, and then we need to pull all of this through a bit. Okay. There we go. Where's all this extra? There we go. Okay. And then we want to go up the top. Down the center, up the bottom, down the center, up the top. That's called a pamphlet stitch. And if you were just making a one signature journal, so say I was making this and that was going to be my cover, or I was putting another cover on it even, and just the one signature, and I wanted to bind that signature together. Pamphlet stitch is, ouch, pretty standard for, that happens. Didn't draw blood, thank goodness. Whew, you're not gonna get my DNA on the, out of the blood. Well, you'll get it in the fingerprints and the ink. I always leave DNA somewhere, usually in fingerprints and ink. I do like ink on my books. Okay, yeah, that's a pamphlet stitch. Easy to put. You could put each signature together with the pamphlet stitch, and then put those signatures into a Midori style or traveler's notebook style cover. Okay, I want to make sure that those are, see what we're dealing with in the back. I want to make sure that they're taut, not too tight so they don't pull through the paper, but nice and taut. They are. So then I'm going to bring the one that I just brought up underneath, but I don't want to get into that zigzag stitch. There we go. All right. Okay, so it came underneath. Make sure it's taut. And then I'm going to tie these two together. Square knot, which is just right over left. And left over right. Easiest knot to remember, best knot to do for that type of situation. Okay, come down here and I'm going to, the first tail got really long, didn't it? Well, I'm going to leave the other one really long too. Maybe I'll do something different with the really long tails. So didn't have a whole lot left of that one, just a couple of inches. So toss that in there. All right, let me take these clips off. So there's our first signature. And there's our second signature. And now we need to put the third signature on. So here's our third signature. Let's make sure what direction is up and down, because some of them, the calendar's upside down. And the outside doesn't really tell me. So I need to take a look at some of the pages and just make sure. Okay, I believe that pocket's on the bottom, but let's keep going. Oh, there's faces, and they're facing this way, so this should be down. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to move this over so I can. So this is another one of those glossy calendar pages. I had concern about the last signature because it just tears easily. Let me move this one over too. It tears easily, and some might not be the best choice for the center. So before I even bind it, I could do something about that. I could add something in. Actually happens to be this paper right here. I could make that the center. And I really have to think about what I'm doing on there because I haven't prepared a big blank page to be the center. But I think I can deal with that. I think I can deal with that, and I think I like that better. It will give a little more strength to this glossy, thinner calendar page. So I'm just going to add that in, add that page in. Remember, there are no mistakes, only opportunities to think creatively, and it's not done until the artist says it's done. So if there's something about it that you don't like, it's not done until you say it's done. And I don't care what you've done to it, you can always do more on top of it to cover it up or add to it. There's always a way to alter it or to change it to make it how you would like it. I'm just checking the spine here. And so even if you had done stuff all over the top of it, you could put some gesso on it and change that right up. You could glue some paper on top of it. You know, all kinds of things. You could cover it with pockets and fun stuff. We got some fun stuff to put in these. Okay, so we know that this is our upright. Check that, yep. Okay, so we know this is top and this is bottom. We can double check that. Yep, with that one, and the writing faces this way. Okay, so I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to line it up with the other two, actually just the one next to it. With the one next to it, but bring it all the way over by this spine. Okay, and there's the center hole. Actually, I'm going to turn this around like I did the very first one. It was a whole lot easier because then my perspective is as it should be. Okay, there's the center. Make a tiny hole there. There's the top. Make a tiny hole there. And there's the bottom. Make a tiny hole there. All right. Get our book base back here. See if they're still lined up. They sure seem to be shifting. They sure seem to be shifting a lot. And maybe that's because of a couple glossy pages in there. There's some deli paper that's kind of slick. Okay, let's try this. There's our center hole right there. Like it was through, and it was. Not exactly center, but that's okay. All right. Just trying to actually go right on the edge of it to get it a little closer to the spine. Okay, that works. And now this one. There's our tiny hole. Is it still lined up? It is pretty well. Okay. Next time, since I'm showing you this with the awl, next time I'll probably just grab the crocodile and use that. It is faster. And Okay, where did this one go? Oh, there it is. There's a tiny hole. It is faster, and it just makes a cleaner hole. That doesn't really matter because the holes don't show. They're back there by the spine. And see, when I use the crocodile, I can get that lined up better on the fold. All right, we're gonna go with that. Put this up here. This is signature number 3, so it goes back here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Up, we've got to prepare us some binding thread. We need an end. There we go. Where's that needle? See if we can get both strands through the first time. Yes. All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and a little bit. There are lots of ways to bind books. Pamphlet stitch is probably the quickest and easiest. So it's a really good one to learn first. If you're new to binding, haven't bound yet, makes you a little nervous or you're not sure how to do it, I would suggest that you try the pamphlet stitch and grab some papers, put together as just one signature like this. Don't attach it to a spine like that, but just do the signature like this. Bind it together, and so you can use it as a notebook or as a one signature journal. Okay, did we get out of alignment already? Because it's not coming through. There it is. I just wasn't on the center of the hole. All right, so remember we're going down in the center. And through our spine. Gotta leave a long enough tail to work with there. So down in the center, and then up in the bottom. See if I can get hold of this. For not being able to see it wasn't bad. All right. Okay, so up on the bottom. And then down in the center again. And I pull this one to the side because I don't want to split this thread. I want to go next to it. Hope I didn't just stick my head right in the front of your camera. It's hard to see from back here. All right, down in the center. And this time we'll come up from the top. We got to get all the way through the center. That includes the spine. Okay. All right, so we went down in the center, up the bottom, then we went down in the center, and now we're going to go up the top. We'll go left-handed, and I'm blind, not being able to see it. Let's see if we can actually just get it right in there right away. Make it easy on us. Come on. Let's see if we turn that around a little bit. There we go. That wasn't bad. Yeah, it's hard to see and keep your head out of the way of the camera. So that's all right. Okay, I know I've said this 15 times, but if I didn't, you hear it once or twice, and then you get off the video and you go to, do your own, and you're like, what, down where and up where? Down the center, up the bottom, down the center, up the top. If you just repeat that so many times that you start to remember it. Okay, I'm going to take these off and get them out of my way. And I'm going to take a look at this and make sure that it's taut, not too tight to pull, but taut. Okay, and they're all nice and taut there. Okay, then I'm going to put this through, or underneath, but through underneath that other one where we came up from the bottom. Okay, and now turn it around, and now they're ready to tie. Trying to keep the thread so that you can see what's what, but sometimes that's hard to do. Okay, keep that tight. All right, so we're going to do square knot, remember, right over left. It's helpful if there's somebody else there, but if there's not, you can always do it. And then left over right. Perfect, exactly what you need. Bring those out, cut this one off. I'm gonna leave those long until I decide exactly what I want to do with them. So there you have it. There's 3 signatures bound on a faux spine, or a false spine, that will be then adhered to this spine like that, and then embellished and decorated. Should be a nice wide journal. I like to add a lot of stuff, so I tried to leave a lot of room. Gave a lot of extra space for those three. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. We'll just do that real quickly and show you that's super easy. All right, I'm turning this up right, and this is just going to get glued down. So I'm going to use Fabri-Tac because this is fabric, and it's going to Tyvek. And come on, Fabri-Tac, come out. Oh, I'm going to squeeze that so tight. Fabri-Tac, Fabri-Fix, 1, 2, 3, any of the Beacons, really. I mean, Beacons makes all of those, and they're all really pretty much the same glue, very similar anyway. They're all good, strong, permanent type adhesives. So I'm going to get this on. I'm going to put it in place, and then I'm going to close the book and prop it between something. That's hurting my hand. Having to squeeze so much and so tightly. It's got to squeeze so hard to get that out. I want to prop it so that it's standing on the spine to give it a chance to just adhere in there nice and tight. This would have been good to have some Fabri-Tac in a dish and scoop it out and smear it on the back here. Would have been a whole lot easier. Don't want it to dry by the time I get around to the other side. It's just not coming out very fast. I guess I could have taken that lid off and gotten, if I do that now, I'll probably just make a big mess all over the place. I should have done it before I had it full of glue. See if that'll stand up on its own right there for a second. See, the very first strip of glue I put down is already drying. This one probably is too. Use both hands, see if I can squeeze it out a little faster. It does not come out very fast. It's a very thick glue, but I do like the way it adheres permanently and very solidly. That's why I use it. Okay, especially if you're using fabric or other material other than paper. All right, so this is going to go. I'm going to pull these up. I want to make sure that it's going to close on both sides and that it's positioned right where I want it. I do have a couple minutes to, at least seconds, to move it around with the Fabri-Tac. Using like art glitter glue, you don't. It really adheres instantly, and there isn't time at all. So I want to make sure that this has got even space on both sides, and it does. And I want to make sure that the top is right where I want it by that eyelet, and it is. And the bottom is not hanging over, and it's not. So I'm going to press this spine down good and firmly. Okay. As soon as I get this decorated and embellished and completed, I will film a walkthrough. I might have enough stuff now that I could throw another one together pretty darn quickly. Spend a lot of time making things. Okay, so now I'm going to let it rest on its spine like that so that the weight is going down. Gravity's pulling it down to where it's supposed to be. I don't want to stand it up and then have it pulling the spine down, which is off. So let's, what I'm going to do is take this over on my counter and prop it up like this. Actually, I'll just leave this right out of the way, but I'm going to prop it up between two things that will just keep it right like that. So that's how it's going to sit for a day. I'll come back to it tomorrow and work on finishing that. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that was helpful in seeing how a hidden binding goes in. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If it was helpful, I'd sure love to know that as well. If it wasn't, or you have suggestions, love to know that as well. If you did find some help in learning how to bind, if you give it a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate that too. We do invite you to come over to Happy Paper People on Facebook and join us there. A wonderful group of people. And Lucy and I will be back with another tutorial soon. And until then, stay curious and try something new.